Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Today's going to be main slate for day on DraftKings. We have a nice 14-game slate coming after a 15-game slate. So back-to-back huge slates, but I think we have it dumbed down here in the cheat sheet. So anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you want access to this cheat sheet and the hitting model and the pitching model, you can support me on Patreon and sign up, and I will show you what you would get. So, well, first of all, I started to write articles on there, so I did write an article today for MLB. And just a little quick rundown of some of my, like a high-end bat, mid-range, value play, and then a high-end pitcher, and some value pitchers as well. So something like that, and you can get access to the pitching model and the hitting model. So I will give you a preview of what that is. So I did this yesterday, but in case you didn't watch the video. So here's shortstops. We get the live, we have batting order, so you can get the see where they're hitting, and the only guys that are showing up right now are in the games that are still playing. So, for example, let's take a guy like today is Paul DeJong at 3,800 going against Mike Leake. You know, a guy that gives up a lot of power to righties, and Paul DeJong is a righty who's hit righties well in his career. This year he's hitting lefties a little bit better, but still good numbers versus right-handed pitching. As you can see, he's got an ISO near 200 and a decent wOBA as well. If we scroll over, well, and I should say the Vegas data hasn't come in yet, so we do have Vegas data that gets put in here as well. So let's go over Mike Leake, giving up a 258 ISO versus right-handed bats, and that's massive. It's one of the highest on the slate. Nick Pavetta's actually got a little bit more, but yeah, and Mike Leake is not good versus right-handed bats, and he doesn't strike out a lot of guys. High fly ball rate as well. And if we keep scrolling over, and then if we sort by projected value, just based off their price tag and their projected points, it looks like Paul DeJong's a pretty good play today. He's my second highest rated shortstop in terms of value, only second to Trevor Story, which makes a lot of sense because Story's facing a lefty in Coors. So this is just an example of what you get access to. It's what I use every day to put together my cheat sheet. So just a little preview of what you'd get, and this is what the Patreon looks like. I'll put the link in the description below, and then you can just go in here, sign up. Got a whole bunch of packages on here for each sport. Been doing really well this season. A lot of people are getting the $20 access package, access to all sports. You get a little bit of savings, and when NFL starts, I'm going to keep that price the same, so you get an even better value as well. So anyway, enough plugging. Just have to get that out of the way, and let's get into the main cheat sheet, which is what you guys are here for. So a couple good high-end pitching options today. Up top, we have Chris Sale and Walker Buehler. First guy I want to talk about is Chris Sale, 11,800. He hasn't flashed his insane upside the past two starts, but the strikeouts were still there. I think he had 10 strikeouts and 8 strikeouts the past two games, which actually I guess you could argue is maybe a little low for Chris Sale. But Toronto does struggle versus lefties, so give me Sale as my number one pitcher on the slate, but it does come at a price, and this is a Coors Field slate, so gonna be interesting to see what we're gonna do here. But there's not a ton of options I actually like at pitcher today, which is kind of weird. So I think we'll have to try to lock up one of these SP1s, but we'll see how roster construction works out. But it is doable. There's a couple good value plays. And then Walker Buehler at 10,900. So if you want sales upside at a cheaper price point, this is your guy with Walker Buehler. Dude's been a rock star recently outside of the Coors game where he got like negative something. But outside of those games, he's been dominant. And he recently just played the Diamondbacks, and he put up over 40 points, and that was in Arizona. And now we're going to be in Dodger Stadium, pitcher-friendly park. So I do like Walker Buehler a lot, and I think he has similar upside to Chris Sale. And you're going to be saving $900. Yeah, 900 there. So that could be big. That could be another extra Coors bet. So definitely like Walker Buehler a lot. And then Sean Anderson at 6,800. I was looking at that San Diego pitcher, Quantrill, I think. But man, San Francisco has been lighting up these San Diego pitchers the past two games, so I think I'm going to stay away for a little bit for there. But Sean Anderson at 6,800. We're going to need a punt option to get an ace plus Coors, so let's try a righty versus San Diego. San Diego sucks versus righties, one of the highest strikeouts in the league versus them. And he did put up 21 points versus San Diego beforehand. So, I mean, he's had recent success versus this team, and Anderson's pretty good versus right-handed bats. He's not the best versus lefties, but versus righties, he literally limits the power, and it's not too bad. So, I do have interest there in Sean Anderson, and it's a good part for pitching. So, I don't mind going with him. And then James McCann at catcher, 4,600. He's known for how good he is versus lefties, and that holds true this year with the 260 ISO versus them this season. He's going to face off versus Tyler Alexander, who sucks versus righties from what I'm seeing, and he did suck in AAA. I think his ERA is above 6 there, so not seeing a lot of good things out of Tyler Alexander, so I don't mind going with James McCann. But I think catcher is going to be a place we're going to want to punt, because if we're going to be spending up for a pitcher and then we're going to Coors bets, we're going to have to spend down somewhere. So I'm liking John Hicks here at 2100. We're going to need to see. I just said that, but there's no other better position to punt with the catcher position, and he's also been halfway decent versus lefties this season. Pretty much the bare minimum. I do have some interest there. And then we have Travis d'Arnaud at 3100. He's been leading off recently versus lefties. In all means, has been good. He has been getting lucky if you look at his SIERA and xFIP compared to his ERA. And he does struggle with righties, with his K percentage dropping dramatically versus them. I know it's above 20% versus lefties, but when it comes to the righties, it's a lot lower, and he does a lot more hard contact. So I don't mind Travis d'Arnaud. And then at first base, we have Yuli Gurriel at 4,500. Just to simply put it, Lambert's been awful outside of one game versus the Cubs, and the Astros' implied run total is over 7 right now, and it should creep up probably. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets close to 8 tomorrow. And Yuli Gurriel also just double donked and had a double tonight, so he's coming in hot, and he's at a pretty nice price point as well. And then Paul Goldschmidt at 3,500. Try it again. League as a pitcher doesn't strike out a lot of guys, especially righties, and he's allowing an ISO near 250 to righties. And while I do like getting Goldschmidt versus lefties better, this price for him is just getting ridiculously cheap, and he's going to be due for a homer here soon. This is a pretty good matchup for it. And then Joey Votto, 4,200. Chessin is a 24% K rate to righties, but only a 10% to lefties, and that's dramatic. And so I want all the lefties here versus Chessin, who struggles with lefties at a hitter's park. So I do have a lot of interest in the Reds lefties. And then at second base, we have Jose Altuve, 4,600. He's still in the mid 4K range, so I have plenty of interest, especially coming off a 4-hit game and then a 3-hit game previously, so he might be warming up here. And we are in Coors Field, so a lot of interest in Jose Altuve. I can see him being very popular. And then a couple Reds lefties here, Scooter Gennett, and Derek Dietrich. I think Scooter's 3,900, Dietrich is 44, if I'm correct. And I just copied and pasted the same exact thing as Votto. But Dietrich has had a lot of power versus righties this season, especially at home. So do like him a lot. And then Robinson Cano, 2,700, below 3K facing your righties. So of course I have interest. Herman is a really nice K rate, but he does allow a near 200 ISO versus lefties. So might be able to pick off a really cheap home run here, maybe not expecting one, but he does have the capabilities. And then at third base, we have Nolan Arenado, 5,300. You guys know the rules. I've been saying it all year. If Arenado is facing a lefty in Coors, no matter who it is, he becomes a top play. I know that's not like bold or anything, but it's just the truth. And his numbers are off the charts versus lefties in Coors. Then has Drupal Cabrera at 3,600 in Coors Field. He's in Coors Field Light, the light version of Coors in Texas, facing off versus Griffin Canning, who owns the highest fly ball rate on the slate versus lefties and gives up over 200 ISO. So might be able to pick off some home runs here, his profile does not match up well with the Rangers with all the lefties they have in their lineup. He's not a terrible pitcher or anything, but we might be able to pick off some home runs. And then Yuli Gurriel, we already talked about him. And then shortstop Trevor Story, 4,500. I already showed you guys my model. He's my highest projected shortstop, which is nothing bold again. But like I'm saying, he's the top play at shortstop. Same reasons as Arenado, but he's $800 cheaper, and I expect him to be a very heavy chalk tomorrow. No reason for him to be that low priced. And then Paul DeJong, I already went over that in the model, so you guys know why I like him. And Alex Bregman, 5,400. I just couldn't leave him off. I mean, he's a top play in terms of raw projection, but I'd much rather get to Trevor Story or Paul DeJong and save there, and then spend up for a guy like Arenado over Alex Bregman. And then in the high-end outfield, we have Mike Trout leading the way for 5,600. He's an elite hitter, possibly the number one hitter versus right-handed pitching, although Yelich is giving him a run for his money this year. But Gerardo's a reverse splits pitcher, giving up more power to righties, and we're also in Texas, so don't overthink this spot for Trout. It's an amazing spot. Then Michael Brantley, 4,900. You guys know I love him. He's one of my favorite players. And he's one of my favorite plays again of the night. No reason he shouldn't be at least 5K, and he's just so underrated as a hitter. And he had a pretty decent game last night as well. So definitely like Michael Brantley a lot. He's a core play for me. Then Shohei Ohtani 5,300. So just because Hirado's reverse split is a reverse splits pitcher doesn't mean I'm just gonna fade the lefties. He's not an elite pitcher by any means, and it's an awesome park for hitting. So I'm gonna give the advantage to the Angels bats. And then in the mid range we have Ian Desmond at 4,500. He's fairly priced versus a lefty in cores. Bryce Harper 4,600. I do like the Phillies again tonight. I think this is just a good overall game for hitting. And Wilson, in a small sample size, is giving up a ton of power so far. ISO is above 300 versus lefties and righties, but decent K rate. But I believe his ERA above like 8 right now, so he hasn't had a best start. And then Justin Upton 4,300 for the righties here versus Hirado, and Upton is cheap enough with plenty of upside versus righties. And the park. Then in the value outfield, we have Kyle Schwarber at 4K. Archer's actually been worse versus righties, but that doesn't change the fact Schwarber is pretty good versus righties, and he is cheap and leading off. So do have interest in him. Then Cole Calhoun at 4,200, just cheap Angels exposure for that game. And core plays for me, I'm going with Sale as of right now. I obviously don't mind if you go with Walker Buehler, but I do think Sale is probably the better play. But like I'm saying, I don't mind going with Walker Buehler either. And then at shortstop, we have Trevor Story at 4,500, Michael Brantley at 4,900, and there is enough value to get that done. So I don't think I'm just giving you guys the top plays, but these are the top 3 guys I want in my lineup tomorrow. If I have to go down to Walker Buehler, I'll do it, but I definitely want to get Story and Brantley in my lineups. And then the top stacks for me is going to be the Coors game, the Texas game, the Philly and Braves game. So that's just 3 total game stacks I do have interest in. And then the Cincy lefties for me. And I'll fill out the yellow stuff for the Patreon members. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for the video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, share. I really appreciate that. We're almost at 1,100, so that's pretty awesome. And anyway, I wish you guys the best of luck, and I'll put the link for Patreon in the description below.